Hi, welcome back to another episode of Cold Stream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're going to start working on Brian's 5-window coupe on his chassis. The plan here is to finish off the weld bungs, go over any of the welds that look not up to snuff, and I'll V them out, grind them out, and then upgrade them. We'll flip the chassis over, do the bottom of it. Once that's all done, we're going to put the Subrails back on, and then hopefully by the end of this video, we'll hopefully at least set the 5-window coupe back on the chassis. Also, as the little things keep coming in for Brenda's Roadster, we're going to pick away at those. So I'll cover those as we go. So follow along as we work on 232 Fords. Like I said previously, one of the things we were asked to do is go over some of the welds on this frame. What I did is I dug whatever welds I could, I dug them out without detaching the metal, but basically got to the point where I could then put a new bead and remelt everything, get some good penetration on the cross member and the boxing plates. So I worked along both sides and then up across the front, re-welded the engine mounts, re-welded the shock brackets, came along this side. What I'll do tomorrow, I will dress everything off, and as long as there's no porosity or holes or anything like that, we will then flip it over, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So I left the time lapse on for the whole welding across the bottom of this. I'm not sure how much of it we're going to leave in. Went for quite a while. But essentially what I did when I flipped the frame over, I went over all of the existing welds. Anywhere where I ground and kind of saw like the parting line of the boxing plate onto the frame, I just completely re-welded that. Some places it was okay. Another thing I did was I put a little gusset on the steering bracket. And any place where the original rivets for the cross members where I welded those shut, I'll grind those off, and then re-welded The rear 4-bar link brackets, just I V'd it out and then kind of cleaned it up a little. We'll wire wheel those. I just want to make sure that everything is good. And then where I could access those little plates for the holding the body down, I welded those up as well. So far, I'm quite happy with it. I didn't re-weld every single thing, but we re-welded quite a bit. Probably go over it with Brian when he gets a chance and make sure that everything is kosher and happy. But for now, once the smoke clears and I have my supper here, I'm going to come back out and I'll grind all those welds down, and then we'll be ready to flip it back over again. So now I've got the bottom of Brian's frame all dressed up. Went over a few spots. Once I ground it, I saw a little bit of porosity and stuff, so dug those back out, touched those up. It's not intended to be 100% perfect because it's not a perfect frame, but it's intended to be a safe frame with all the weld joints, nice and solid and good. So what we're going to do now, I am going to flip the frame over, put it back on the homemade dolly here, get rid of the sawhorses and clean the mess up. Then we're going to put the subrails back onto the frame. Put some bolts into it and get it ready to bring the body in. There's the frame back down on the dolly, the homemade dolly. We've got the subrails put back in, and I welded the floor in place that goes underneath the seat. Basically just using the hole puncher and welding the spots in to make it look like a spot weld. The originals were riveted, but most of the Brookfield, well, some of the Brookfield stuff is riveted and welded, just depends on which part it is, but what I chose to do is just weld the floor in. It doesn't move that way. The other modification we did was there was a large chunk cut of the cross member to access the brake pedal. So what we did, we just made a little piece of 1/8 plate to go along there and kind of reinforce the top part of that cross member, because by cutting it through, it could then flex. Now that we've got that welded up, we're kind of straightened that back up again. So right now we are ready for the body to come over probably tomorrow, I'm hoping. We'll set the body on and take a first look at it. I don't know how far we're going to be able to go because we actually need a firewall gasket to start tightening things down, but at least we'll get it here and we'll show you the body.
Okay.
That's about it. If you're really...
I'm on the edge.
That's okay. We'll pull her out.
Pull one out?
Yeah. Pull her out.
Okay.
The rest of it, I'm gonna have to tweak it up and down. Like,
Yeah.
just so long as I'm in the ballpark, then I can put.
Okay, let's drive her home.
Then I can put some. Cause, yep. We gotta,
Hold it up, but it's in your way.
let's see. Actually, let's lift the front up. There we go. So we gotta leave that. Because I'm still gonna have to pull the B-pillars out and bring it down. I suppose the top, she can't hear me talking. So this is it. This is Brian's 5-window coupe. We're just sitting it on the Subrails for now. I'm gonna wait for the seal for the firewall to come in, then we can start positioning it, and then I'm playing all around with it. But this is the next 32 5-window coupe. So in last week's video, we put the minivan seat in the 32 Ford. Was quite successful. It fit us pretty well. Was adjustable forward and backwards. Like, I'm a relatively tall person. I'm just over 6'2", close to 200 pounds, not a small person. It fit me well. The owner, though, his body proportions are slightly different than mine. I think his legs are a little shorter and his torso is a little longer. So what he requested us do, even though it was okay, he wants us to try and drop the seat a little further. So what I think I can do, it looks as though I can drop the seat. I'll have to modify the bracket again, but basically drop the seat from this point to the bottom of the plastic here. So what we'll try and do is drop it and then actually try and tilt the seat back a little bit. So we'll take, it looks like about 1.5 inches out of the back here and maybe 1 inch out of the front. And that's probably about as much as we can do. It's the same thing when we were working on the 32 pickup. I mean, the pickup has 6 inches less room inside of it than what a coupe or a Roadster does. So we had to adjust the seat, you know, thin down the cushions and stuff like that. So that's another option in the future. We'll maximize how much we drop the seat. And then the other thing that can be done is that we can change, if and when he decides to reupholster this seat, we could potentially shave the cushion down, thin the back down, and reshape the cushion to try and pick up a little bit more, because most of the time, you know, every 1/2 inch, every 1/4 of an inch makes a difference. So if you're not sure what you're looking at, this is the seat upside down with the sliders. And again, what I'm going to try and do here, we'll take the safety belts off, and then we'll drop this about 1.5 inches, and I think about 1 inch in the front, and then see how we are. So here's a first cut in trying to reduce the seats coming down. Took 1.5 inches out of the back and took 1 inch out of the front, and this is kind of like where the seat is sitting right now compared to the other side. What I'm going to do is, before I tack those up, so there it is right there. I've cut them apart. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cut the other side first, make sure I take the exact same amount off of each side, and then get my measurements again between here and there, make sure things are parallel, front to back the same way. What I will do is I will just tack weld these very quickly, and I'll probably put some wood or something underneath there, something to prevent from any sparks going into the foam or the upholstery. Last thing I want to do is ruin the foam or the upholstery here. We'll tack it in place, then we'll take everything off, and then we'll weld it back up again and paint it up again. but I think that's as low as I can drop it. It's going to be basically the thickness of these sliders up off of the floor. Maybe I could go another half an inch or something, but I don't want it to be at a point where maybe it drags. So between the 1.5 in the back and the inch in the front, we've dropped it, plus we've tilted it a little bit. That should make a pretty big difference. So anyways, follow along. We're going to make another modification on the seat. So there's round number 2 of the seat adjustment. I made those final cuts on both sides, welded them back up, put a coat of paint on them. Now they're back in the Roadster. In the back, I was actually able to take another 1/4 inch out of it. In the front, I kind of kept it the same. That way, the back of the seat goes down, but also it tips back ever so slightly, which then puts the back of the seat a little further back there. And what the owner asked for was it would drop down slightly below this bar and then go in just a little bit. And that way he's got the maximum kind of distance in the seat. Anything else right now is going to have to come out of reupholstering the seat and cutting the foam down, because we're at the physical limitation of cutting stuff down and brackets wise to get the seat in there. Certainly all that's an option. We've done that before. If you come across this, don't get frustrated, because there's a lot of folks that have to put a seat in 3, 4, 5 times to kind of get the optimal fit for them. A lot of these cars in the 20s and the 30s weren't built for the same size people a lot of us are today, both in height and in some cases, our physical torso size kind of thing. So just, play around with it, try and get it as close as you can, and then look at your options as to, shortening the brackets. And then, once you've hit the limits of shortening the brackets and getting the seat down, then it comes down to basically thinning down the cushions underneath and reupholstering stuff. So for now, this is as far as we can go with it. The owner's going to drop by here later this week and then give her another try. And then if it suits, then we'll leave it as it is. And if not, in the future, we'll look at reupholstering it, kind of like just what we did on the 32 Ford pickup. I had to cut the back down because there's a lot less leg room in the 32 pickup there. There's about 6 inches less. The cab is shorter, so we had to cut the seat down. And in that case, we moved the steering wheel up and forward and all those kind of things to maximize the space. So going to go on to a couple more things on the list there on the 32 Roadster and try and push it closer to completion. Another one of the requests that we had for the 32 Roadster was to put a USB and a phone charging port in the Roadster. So I ordered these up off of Amazon. Came with a little plastic mounting thing. There's like a cigarette lighter and the phone charger USB port. Didn't want to put these right into the dash, so what we're going to do is we're going to just make this out of I think it's 14 gauge sheet metal. Popped a couple holes into it. We're going to drill a couple holes there, and what we'll do is we'll mount that up against the right there. We're going to mount it up against the reinforcing bar underneath the dash. Kind of tuck it underneath a little bit, but so that you can see it, but it's kind of not, distracting from the dash kind of thing. So what I'm going to do now, like I say, I'll pop the holes into it, put a little coat of paint, and then we'll install that into the 32 Roadster. So there's the little USB ports. I tucked them up underneath the dash there, got them in black. You can see them when you're inside the car, but they're not distracting away from the dash. So I don't really like stuff hanging off of the bottom of the dash. I kind of like it just like clean and neat and just discreet. So there's the USB ports. So today on the project list is to hook up the front headlights on Brenda's Roadster. The type of headlights that we have here is a headlight with the signal indicators in it. Across the bottom there, you can see the little LED lights for the signal indicator and the park light. So this headlight has 6 wires coming out of it, 3 heavy ones for the headlight, and then 3 small ones for the signal light and parking lamp. Now, two of those wires are ground wires, of course, one for the headlamp and one for the signal light. And like in import fashion, the black wire on the LED is the power and the white one is the ground, and the opposite is for the headlamp. So anyways, what the customer wanted us to do, he bought these braided steel lines here from Speedway to connect them up to the grill shell. We're going to hook those up. Now, the struggle I found with this was there's like a 3/8 fine thread on either end of these. And then, actually, no, it's a 1/2 inch fine thread. My apologies. 1/2 inch 20 fine thread on the end of each one of this stainless steel conduit. But then on the bottom of the headlamp right there, that's 1/2 inch coarse thread. So there really isn't a way to connect them up. I struggled a little bit with what to do, but ultimately came up with the idea of using a castle nut. And I'm kind of doing a little bit of a show and tell here because it took so long to do this yesterday to figure out what to do. So I'm going to describe what I've done. So I went over to the hardware store and bought a long castle nut like that, a 1/2 inch coarse thread castle nut, and then cut a piece of it off. And then ultimately what I did, I threaded this on the bottom of that stud there, and that stud actually shortened it up a little bit, so the castle nut would go like this. And then by removing one of these ends, if I can get it off here, this will fit through the castle nut, and I'll use this kind of as a flange on the bottom of the headlamp. So I kind of have it done already over here. As you can see, it turned out okay. Castle nut, maybe we could shorten it up just a little bit. And then what I did on the side of the radiator shell, I have an original radiator over there, and I drilled a hole in one of the original locations, trying to show it right there, in the bottom of the rad shell, and then basically fished all the wires in through the radiator shell there. And I'll see if I can spin it around. Not sure if you can see it there. So the wires are going in there now. So what I'm going to do now is I will do the same thing on this side. Got to take the headlamp apart, fish the wires down through it. Because the conduit here only has room for 6 wires, what I ultimately had to do, or for 3 wires, it won't fit all 6 of these in there. What I had to do was actually ground the headlamp and the LED light up against the case of the headlamp. I checked it with the continuity tester to make sure we've got a good ground between the headlamp through all this all metal collection, through the studs and into the frame. And we've got a good ground onto it. I'll double check this one as I hook it up, but I'll carry on and I'll get that all done up here now. So there's the headlights all hooked up. Hooked the power up for the first time. Most everything works. I mean, there's not a whole lot on this. Haven't started the engine up. We've got the taillights and the license plate lights. As far as flashers go, I have the same problem I had before. Essentially, what goes on is that if you use these kind of flashers or even some of the other cheaper ones, they with the LED lights all the way around, they simply don't flash. I have put the 5 ohm or whatever little ohm resistors in place in the back, but I found that when I built the 32 pickup, I still had to buy the LED electronic flashers to make the blinkers work. So what I've done, I just ordered those, and we'll see when they come in how they work. I mean, it worked on the other car. I've got no reason to think that anything else is wrong with this one because it's doing the same thing. The other thing is that the dash light, the gauge lights don't come on, so that could be just a ground or a power or something. We'll troubleshoot that. That's the only 2 things we didn't notice. Fuel pump works. I did click the starter. The engine does turn, but we don't have any gas into it or anything, so I know that's okay. The last thing I have to do electrically right now is to hook up the electric fan. I did not do that. But we're kind of winding up on all the little things on Brenda's Roadster that they want us to do. A couple more things will shake down, but like whenever you're building one of these cars, it's like sometimes you get lucky and everything all works, and so far like nothing has really gone wrong. It's the same stuff we've seen before, but we're kind of pushing the final details to the Roadster to the end. The customer is going to bring the new rims and new tires here shortly, put them on, because like we just still have like our garage roller tires on it. There is oil and everything. We'll put some gas into it at some point in time, torque the heads down and make sure that everything is good there. But like I said, we're picking away at the last few things to finish off Brenda's Roadster. That's it for another week at Coldstream Rod Shop. This week we worked on what we were calling Brian's coupe, but Brian is now a new grandfather and he is going to call this Ellie's coupe. So congratulations, Brian, out there on being a grandfather, and to your son. But from now on, we're going to call this Ellie's coupe. We're still waiting for some parts to come in to do some more work with Ellie's coupe. Still tidying up a few little things on the Roadster as we showed this week. There's still a couple more things left to do, just small little stuff. But that's it for another week at Coldstream Rod Shop. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please send me your comments. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe, and come on back next week.